The 7 large alien ships appeared in Earth's orbit on a Tuesday morning. They came without warning, their sleek hulls gleaming in the sunlight. People across the world looked up at the sky, pointing and taking pictures. Some were scared. Others were excited. But everyone knew that this day would change everything. In the United Nations meeting hall in New York, screens showed the alien vessels. World leaders sat in tense silence. At the head of the table, Admiral Jun Kim stood with his hands clasped behind his back. He was 60 years old, with gray hair and calm eyes. Nothing about the alien ships seemed to surprise him. "They're hailing us," said a young woman at the communications desk. "They want to talk." Admiral Kim nodded. "Put them through." The main screen flickered. A tall alien with blue-green skin and 4 eyes appeared. It wore complex robes with shining symbols. "I am Ambassador Talek of the Viridian Empire, senior representative of the Galactic Concord," the alien said in perfect English. "We come in peace to welcome humanity to the wider community of spacefaring species." President Davis of the United States stepped forward. "We are honored by your visit, Ambassador. I am President Davis, and this is Admiral Kim, who will lead our diplomatic team." Admiral Kim gave a small bow. "Welcome to Earth." 3 hours later, the human delegation sat across from the aliens in a hastily prepared meeting room. The aliens had transported down in a flash of light. There were 7 different species, each stranger than the last. Ambassador Talek sat in the middle, clearly in charge. "We have been watching your development for some time," Talek said. "Your progress from your first rockets to your Mars colony in just over a century is impressive, but you have much to learn." Admiral Kim sipped his water. "We are eager to learn from new friends." Talek's upper eyes blinked. "The Concord offers humanity protectorate status. This is a great honor. We will guide your development, protect you from hostile powers, and gradually introduce you to galactic technology." "And what would this protectorate status require from us?" asked Admiral Kim. The alien smiled, showing teeth that looked like small white squares. "Very little. You would need to limit your military growth, accept resource quotas, allow Concord advisors in your governments, standard procedures for new species." President Davis frowned, but Admiral Kim's face remained calm. "And if we wanted to join as equals instead?" Kim asked. All 4 of Talek's eyes widened. The other aliens shifted in their seats. One made a sound like muffled laughter. "That would be impossible," Talek said. "Your technology is centuries behind the youngest Concord member. You have barely left your solar system. You have no understanding of dimensional physics or proper starship construction." "Is that so?" Admiral Kim placed his hands flat on the table. "Perhaps we should be more clear about our position. Earth wishes to join the galactic community as a full and equal member." Talek stood up. He was nearly 7 feet tall. "Admiral Kim, I don't think you understand. The protectorate offer is generous. The alternative is isolation, or worse, being open to less friendly powers who might see your world as a resource to exploit." The room grew quiet. The threat was clear. Admiral Kim slowly stood up as well. He was a foot shorter than the alien, but somehow he didn't seem small. "Ambassador Talek, I believe it is you who does not understand. We appreciate your offer, but we must decline protectorate status. We request recognition as a sovereign power." Talek's skin darkened with emotion. "This is not a negotiation. Your primitive weapons and handful of fusion drives don't qualify you for equal standing. You have no choice but to accept our protection." Admiral Kim smiled for the first time since the meeting began. The smile didn't reach his eyes. "Perhaps," he said softly, "you should see what we've been keeping in reserve before making your final decision." The aliens left Earth's orbit angry. They gave humans 3 days to reconsider their foolish position. As their ships disappeared from view, Admiral Kim made a call on a private line that hadn't been used in decades. "The time has come," he said simply. "Prepare the heritage sites. Activate Protocol Dawn." Across Earth, in deep underground bases, in mountain bunkers, and beneath the oceans, ancient computer systems came to life. Signals traveled to the asteroid belt, to bases on the far side of the moon, and to secret facilities on Mars. People with special clearances were woken in the middle of the night. Doors that hadn't been opened in generations swung wide. 2 days later, Admiral Kim stood in the Oval Office with President Davis and 5 other people. One was Director Jin Song of Global Security. Another was Commander Suk Park, a woman who, until yesterday, officially didn't exist. "They were never going to offer us fair terms," Director Song said. "Our deep space listening posts picked up their real communications. They see Earth as a resource-rich world with a convenient labor force." President Davis looked pale. "And you're certain about what you're proposing, after all these years of secrecy?" Admiral Kim nodded. "The custodian protocol was created for exactly this scenario: first contact with a hostile or domineering alien power." "The ships are ready," Commander Park added. "They've always been ready." "How many people know about this?" the president asked. "Globally?" "Fewer than 2,000, Admiral Kim said. "Most are descendants of the original custodians. They've kept the secret for generations." President Davis walked to the window and looked up at the sky. "History will judge whether we're doing the right thing." "History already has," Admiral Kim said quietly. "That's why we're here." The next morning, Admiral Kim sent a message to the Galactic Concord ships waiting at the edge of the solar system. The message was simple. "The diplomatic team of Earth invites the Concord representatives to view a demonstration at the following coordinates." The coordinates pointed to a cluster of large asteroids in the outer belt. "They won't believe what they see," Commander Park said as she and Admiral Kim boarded the small ship that would take them to the meeting point. "No one ever does at first." "Admiral," Kim looked at her. "Would you have believed it if you hadn't been born into the program?" She laughed. "That humans have been hiding a fleet of warships older than any alien civilization? Ships that could destroy stars? No, I wouldn't have believed it. Their ship accelerated smoothly toward the asteroid belt, moving much faster than any publicly known human vessel could travel. Behind them, Earth grew smaller, a blue marble hanging in the blackness of space. Ahead of them waited the aliens, and the greatest secret in human history. The time for hiding was over." The trip to the asteroid belt took only 4 hours. This surprised the aliens, who had expected humans to need at least 2 days for such a journey. Their own ships moved alongside the human vessel, dwarfing it in size. Yet somehow, the small Earth ship kept pace easily. Ambassador Talek watched from the command deck of his ship as they approached a cluster of large asteroids. Nothing seemed unusual about them, just gray space rocks spinning slowly in the darkness. "Primitive deception," he said to his captain. "They bring us all this way to see rocks." The captain, a tall Viridian like Talek but with military markings on his skin, pointed at a screen. "Our scans show unusual density patterns in the largest asteroid, and there are energy readings." Before he could finish, a message came from the human ship. "Ambassador Talek," Admiral Kim's voice was calm. "Please watch the largest asteroid directly ahead." For a few seconds, nothing happened. Then, without warning, the massive rock split open like an egg. The outer shell separated cleanly into 8 equal pieces that moved outward, revealing what was hidden inside. Every alien on the command deck fell silent. Inside, the hollowed asteroid floated a warship of impossible size and design. It was at least 7 kilometers long, with a dark hull that seemed to swallow light. Strange markings covered its surface, not paint, but what looked like ancient battle scars and symbols burned deep into the metal. At various points along its length, weapon ports glowed with soft blue light. "Impossible," Talek whispered. More asteroids were opening now. 5, 10, 15, each revealing ships of different sizes and designs, but all clearly built for war. Some looked ancient, others more modern, but all radiated power beyond anything the conquered possessed. Admiral Kim's voice came again. "Ambassador, please dock. Your shuttle at the coordinates we're sending. We have prepared a tour." An hour later, Talek and 3 other Concord representatives walked through the massive corridors of the first revealed warship. Commander Suk Park led the way. "Admiral," Kim walked beside Talek. "This vessel is called the Eternal Vigilance," Commander Park explained. It was constructed approximately 15,200 years ago, though it has been upgraded many times since. Talek's 4 eyes blinked rapidly. This is a deception. Humans have not had spaceflight technology for more than 2 centuries. Admiral Kim smiled, slightly. What you know of human history is incomplete. They entered a vast chamber with a ceiling that disappeared into darkness above. In the center stood what could only be a weapon, a massive construct of metal and crystal that pulsed with energy. This is a star core disruptor, Commander Park said casually. It can destabilize a sun from a distance of half a light year, causing it to nova within hours or collapse depending on the settings. Talek backed away from the device. Such weapons are forbidden. Even theoretical research into star-killing technology is banned by every civilized species. We know, Admiral, Kim said quietly. We're the ones who learned why they should be banned. The hard way. They continued the tour, passing crew quarters large enough for thousands, engine rooms housing power sources that defied the aliens' understanding, and hangar bays filled with smaller craft. Where are the crews? Asked a reptilian alien named Keth, the Concorde's military advisor. In stasis mostly, Commander Park replied. Some positions are maintained by active-duty personnel who serve in 6-month rotations. Others are handled by advanced systems. How many ships do you have? Keth asked. Commander Park exchanged a glance with Admiral Kim before answering. The Heritage Fleet currently numbers 317 capital ships and approximately 1,500 support vessels. The aliens stopped walking. That's more than the combined naval force of the entire Concorde, Talek said, his voice barely a whisper. Yes, Admiral Kim agreed simply. They finished the tour in what appeared to be a museum within the massive ship. Display cases showed artifacts from battles fought long ago. Holographic displays depicted star systems that had been destroyed or transformed. I don't understand, Talek said, staring at a twisted piece of metal labeled Fragment of the Harmony, Booking destroyed 13247 BCE. If you possess this technology all along, why hide it? Why pretend to be a young, developing species? Admiral Kim stood before a wall bearing thousands of names etched in gold. Because last time we used these ships in war, billions died, he said, including most of humanity. The aliens gathered, closer as Kim continued. What you see here is all that remains of humanity's first stellar empire. We once controlled hundreds of star systems, built wonders that lasted millennia, and reached levels of technology that we still don't fully understand today. Then what happened? Asked Kith. Commander Park touched a control panel. A holographic display appeared, showing a map of the galaxy with hundreds of points of light representing star systems. Then one by one the lights began to go out. We had a civil war, she said. A conflict so terrible that it nearly wiped us out completely. By the end, the survivors could fit on a single planet, Earth. Those who remained made a choice, Admiral, Kim added. They decided that humanity wasn't ready for this power. They hid the remaining ships, erased much of our history, and established the custodian order, people sworn to watch over these weapons and this knowledge until humanity had matured enough to use it wisely. Talek moved closer to the hologram, his 4 eyes reflecting the dying stars. And you believe that time has come now? No, Admiral Kim said. But we didn't choose this moment. You did, when you threatened Earth. The group stood in silence for several minutes. Finally, Talek spoke. The Concorde must reconsider its position, he said formally. I request time to consult with my government. Of course, Admiral Kim replied. You have 3 days, the same amount of time you gave us. As the aliens prepared to leave, Talek took Admiral Kim aside. These ships are not just weapons, the alien said. They're a burden, a terrible responsibility. Yes, Kim agreed. One we've carried alone for thousands of years. And now? Admiral Kim looked at the wall of names again. Now the truth must come out. Not just to you, but to our own people. Most humans don't know any of this. They believe what you believed, that we are young among the stars. They may not thank you for this revelation, Talek warned. Kim nodded. Perhaps not. But the time for secrets is over. As the alien delegation departed, Commander Park joined Admiral Kim. Do you think they'll attack? She asked quietly. Kim watched the alien shuttle grow smaller as it returned to its ship. Some will want to, he said. Others will urge caution. Either way, we need to prepare. For war? She asked. For the truth, he answered, and whatever comes after. 3 days after the revelation in space, Earth was buzzing with rumors and questions. News channels showed blurry pictures of strange ships. Government officials made vague statements about historic discoveries. People gathered in streets and parks looking up at the sky with new eyes. In a large hall at the United Nations building, 200 of the world's most powerful people sat in stunned silence. They had just watched a video of the Heritage Fleet. Most were seeing it for the first time. At the front of the room stood Professor Tae-Yoon, a small man with silver hair and kind eyes. He did not look like someone who kept world-changing secrets. Yet he was the chief historian of the Custodian Order, keeper of humanity's true past. For most of you, what I am about to share will seem impossible, Professor Yoon said. His voice was soft but carried to every corner of the room. You were taught that humans first reached space in the 20th century, that we are young among the stars. This was a necessary lie. Behind him, a large screen lit up with images of ancient star maps. Human civilization achieved spaceflight not 200 years ago, but over 20,000 years ago, he continued. At our height, we controlled nearly 400 star systems. We built wonders that lasted millennia. We met other species, traded with some, fought with others. The screen showed ruins on distant planets, ancient space stations, and monuments that no modern human had ever seen. In the third row, the president of China stood up. Why were we never told this? By what right was this hidden from humanity? Professor Yoon nodded as if he had expected this question. By right of survival. Please let me continue, and you will understand. He touched a control, and the images changed to show beautiful cities among the stars. Humans in strange clothing walked alongside creatures that were clearly not from Earth. For nearly 5,000 years, humanity prospered. We called ourselves the Human Commonwealth. We were not perfect, but we achieved great things. Then, about 15,000 years ago, we began to divide. The screen showed two symbols, a blue spiral and a red star. Two main factions formed. They had complex names and ideologies, but at the core, they disagreed on our future path. The Continuity faction believed in slow, careful progress. The Ascension faction wanted to push boundaries, evolve beyond our human limits. The room was completely silent now. The debate might have remained philosophical, but both sides had access to weapons of unimaginable power. When diplomacy failed, war began. The screen showed flashes of light where stars had once been. It was not a war as you understand war. Entire planets were destroyed. Stars were extinguished. Billions died in moments. The very fabric of space was damaged in some regions. After 3 terrible years, both sides realized there could be no victory, only extinction. Professor Yoon paused, his face showing deep sadness. Out of the few survivors, a council formed. They made a choice that would shape the next 15,000 years of human history. They decided that humanity had proven itself unready for the power it wielded. An alien delegation now entered the hall, led by Ambassador Talek. They took seats at the back, watching silently. The council ordered most of our advanced technology destroyed or hidden. They chose Earth, our ancestral home, as the place where humanity would begin again. Most people had their memories altered to forget the stars. Only a small group, the first custodians, remembered the truth. Their mission was to watch, to guard what remained of our fleet, and to ensure humanity would never again destroy itself. The President of the United States stood up. Are you saying our entire history is a lie? That everything we know about human civilization is wrong? Professor Yoon shook his head. No. You really did build pyramids and fight world wars and write great literature. Humanity truly did climb from stone tools to space shuttles. The custodians merely removed certain options, guided development away from dangerous paths. We hid evidence of the past when it was found. A general from Russia spoke next. These ships you've revealed, why keep them at all? If they're so dangerous, why not destroy them? 3 reasons, Professor Yoon answered. First, because we might need them. The galaxy is not always kind to young species. Second, because they contain knowledge that might someday benefit humanity, when we're ready. And third, because they are a reminder of what happens when great power comes without wisdom. He touched the control again. The screen showed Earth, beautiful and blue. For thousands of years, the custodians have watched and waited. Each generation passed the duty to the next. We were few, never more than a few thousand worldwide. We hid in plain sight as teachers, military officers, scientists, and civil servants. We guided when necessary, but tried not to interfere directly. Behind. Professor Yoon, Admiral Kim, and Commander Park stood at attention. They were joined by others, men and women from every nation, all wearing simple silver pins that marked them as custodians. The arrival of the Concord forced our hand, Professor Yoon continued. Not because they are evil, they are not, but because their offer of protection would have prevented humanity from following its own path, from learning its own lessons. Ambassador Talek stood up from the back of the room. All eyes turned to him. Your people have hidden power that my civilization cannot match, the alien said. Yet you've used this power with restraint. This is unexpected. Professor Yoon smiled sadly. We learned restraint through terrible loss, Ambassador. A lesson we hope others need not repeat. The room erupted in questions. Leaders demanded to know more about the ships, about the technology, about what else had been hidden. Professor Yoon raised his hands for quiet. Everything will be shared now, he promised. The time for secrets is over, but I ask you to remember, these ships are not just weapons. They are the gravestones of billions. They are a warning about the cost of wielding power without understanding its consequences. As the meeting continued into the night, news of humanity's true history spread across the world. Some people celebrated, others protested. Many simply looked at the stars with new eyes, wondering what else waited for them out there. And in distant parts of the galaxy, other powers began to take notice of the ancient fleet that had suddenly reappeared after 15,000 years of silence. 1 week after the truth about human history was revealed, the galactic Concord fell into chaos. The 7 species that made up the alliance argued over what to do about Earth. 3 wanted peaceful relations. 2 remained undecided. But the Viridians and the Krell called for immediate action against the human threat. On the Concord space station Harmony, alien diplomats shouted at each other across a round table. Ambassador Talek stood silent, watching the disorder with all 4 eyes. The humans have lied for thousands of years, shouted Drex, the Krell representative. His scaled skin flushed dark orange with anger. They have hidden weapons that could destroy us all. We must strike now before they fully awaken their fleet. Across the table, a tall, thin alien named Shintar raised his 3-fingered hands for quiet. He was a Melavan, known for their wisdom and patience. Have they used these weapons against us? Shintar asked calmly. No. They revealed them only after we threatened their world. They showed restraint when they could have destroyed us instantly. Drex slammed his fist on the table. Restraint or strategy? Perhaps they wait until more ships are ready. Talek finally spoke. I have seen these vessels with my own eyes. They are already ready. If they wanted war, we would already be fighting it. The arguing continued for hours. Unknown to the diplomats, hidden cameras recorded everything. The feeds were routed to a secret location where they were watched carefully. Captain Hana Kang sat in a darkened room aboard the Heritage Fleet ship, Memory of Dawn, which orbited Mars. Around her, 5 intelligence officers monitored dozens of screens showing Concord communications. They had been gathering information since first contact. They're splitting into factions, Captain Kang said to Admiral Kim through a secure channel. The peaceful group is led by the Melavans, but the Krell and some Viridian military leaders are pushing for an attack. Admiral Kim's voice came through clearly. Do they have the votes to force action? Not yet, Captain Kang replied. But our monitors have detected unusual ship movements. 17 Viridian warships have changed course in the last 6 hours. They're gathering near the Proxima system. Admiral Kim was silent for a moment. That's too many ships for a normal patrol. Keep watching them. Yes, sir, Captain Kang said. She turned to her team. I want all eyes on those Viridian ships. Track every communication, every course change. For 3 days, Captain Kang barely slept. Her team took shifts, but she remained at her post, watching as more Viridian ships joined the gathering force. On the 4th day, she found what she feared, a heavily encrypted transmission from the Viridian fleet commander to his ships. The encryption was complex, but the Heritage Fleet's systems were thousands of years more advanced. Within hours, they had the message. Captain Kang's face turned pale as she read it. She immediately called Admiral Kim. Sir, the Viridians are planning a surprise attack. They aim to destroy our main shipyard in the asteroid belt. Their attack force includes 30 battleships and a planet-killer weapon. Admiral Kim's response was immediate. Activate Defense Protocol Echo. I'll inform Earth's governments. How much time do we have? Captain Kang checked the data. They'll be in strike range in 18 hours. That's not much time, Admiral Kim said. But it will have to be enough. As the call ended, Captain Kang turned to her crew. Send the alert to all Heritage Fleet stations. Priority Alpha. Authentication code Yalara 77 Delta. Throughout the solar system, hidden facilities came to life. Inside 7 of the largest asteroids, massive warships began powering up systems that had been in standby mode for centuries. On Earth, Admiral Kim addressed an emergency meeting of the United Nations Security Council. The Viridian Empire has chosen war, he said grimly. They will attack our shipyards within 18 hours. We must act now to protect Earth. The Chinese representative stood up. Can our conventional forces help? Admiral Kim shook his head. Our regular military would be destroyed in seconds, but we have prepared for this day. 7 ships from the Heritage Fleet are being activated. They will intercept the Viridian force. Only 7 ships against 30? Asked the Russian president. Is that enough? A slight smile touched Admiral Kim's lips. More than enough. As the meeting continued, an urgent message arrived. It was from Shintar, the Melavan diplomat. Captain Kang had routed it directly to Admiral Kim's secure device. Admiral Kim, the alien's voice was filled with concern. I have just learned of a terrible betrayal. A faction within the Viridian military plans to attack your shipyards. This action is not authorized by the full Concord. Many of us desire peace with humans. Admiral Kim nodded to himself. Thank you for the warning, Shintar. We already know of the attack, but your honesty will be remembered. Can you stop them? The alien asked. Yes, Admiral Kim said simply, but we will show restraint. We will disable, not destroy unless absolutely necessary. 16 hours later, Captain Kang stood on the command deck of the Memory of Dawn as it moved to intercept the Viridian fleet. 6 other Heritage ships formed a defensive line. Each was at least twice the size of the largest Viridian vessel. They've detected us, reported a young officer. They're changing formation. Captain Kang nodded. Open a channel to their command ship. On the main screen, the face of a Viridian admiral appeared. His skin was dark with surprise and anger. This is Captain Hana Kang of the Earth Heritage Fleet, she said calmly. Your attack force has been detected. Return to conquered space immediately, or we will be forced to take defensive action. The Viridian admiral hissed. You are outnumbered. Surrender your shipyards or be destroyed. Captain Kang sighed. You were shown our ships. You were told our history. Yet you still believe you can win? Very well. Let us educate you. She cut the transmission and turned to her weapons officer. Target their engines and weapons only. Minimal force. We want to disable, not destroy. Yes, Captain, the officer replied. Targeting systems locked. Ready on your command. Captain Kang took a deep breath. This would be the first combat use of the Heritage Fleet in 15,000 years. She hoped it would also be the last. Fire, she said softly. From the 7 human ships came weapons that the Viridians had never seen before. Beams of blue-white energy that could be precisely controlled, targeting specific systems without destroying entire ships. Strange fields that disabled engines without harming crews. In some cases, Viridian weapons simply stopped working, shut down by technology they couldn't understand. The battle lasted less than 20 minutes. When it was over, 28 Viridian ships floated powerless. 2 had tried to flee and were now held in place by energy fields. Not a single ship had been destroyed. Not a single alien had died. Captain Kang opened a channel to the defeated fleet. This was not a battle. It was a demonstration. Return to your people and tell them what you have seen. Tell them that humanity chose peace when we could have chosen destruction. As the Viridian ships were towed back toward Concord space by tractor beams, Captain Kang received a new message, this one from Earth. Analysts had discovered something important in the captured Viridian data. The attack hadn't been planned by the full Viridian government at all, but by a secret faction that had suspected humanity's true nature for decades. The crisis was over, but new questions were just beginning. 6 months after the failed Viridian attack, representatives from Earth and the Galactic Concord gathered on the neutral space station Harmony. The large meeting hall had been redesigned for the historic occasion. 7 tall flags representing the Concord species hung on one wall. Opposite them was a single flag showing Earth, surrounded by stars arranged in an ancient pattern that few modern humans had recognized until recently. Admiral Kim and Director Minho Lee of the Heritage Fleet led the human delegation. Director. Lee was a quiet man with steady hands and thoughtful eyes. He had spent 40 years as a custodian before the revelation, working as a university professor while secretly overseeing the maintenance of 5 ancient warships. Across the table sat representatives from all 7 conquered species. Ambassador Talek was still there, but he no longer led the alien delegation. That honor now belonged to Shintar, the Melavan who had warned humanity about the Viridian attack. This meeting marks a new chapter in galactic history, Shintar began. His voice was musical and calm. For the first time in recorded memory, the Concord meets with representatives of a civilization older than our own. Admiral Kim nodded in acknowledgement. The room was silent as Director Lee stood to speak. 6 months ago, humanity revealed a truth we had hidden even from ourselves, he said. We showed you our ancient fleet not as a threat, but as evidence of our past and as a warning about the dangers of unchecked power. He activated a small device on the table. A holographic display appeared, showing the current positions of Earth's Heritage Fleet. Most of the ships had returned to their hiding places in the asteroid belt. Only 7 remained active, patrolling the edges of the solar system. Today, we come to establish a lasting peace, Director Lee continued. But first, we must be clear about our terms. The terms were simple but firm. Earth would remain independent. The Heritage Fleet would stay active, but under strict civilian oversight. Humans would share some of their non-military technology and historical knowledge with the Conquered, but the most dangerous weapons would remain under Earth's control. We have seen what happens when such power is misused, Admiral Kim explained. We will not allow that history to repeat, not by our hands or anyone else's. The negotiations continued for 3 days. Some Conquered representatives argued for greater access to human technology. Others wanted limits on how many heritage ships could be active at once. But in the end, they all recognized the new reality. Humanity was not a young, weak species to be guided or controlled, but an ancient power that had chosen peace over dominance. On the final day, Director Lee made an unexpected offer. We propose a joint training program, he announced. Earth will select scientists and engineers from each conquered species. They will work alongside human experts to study aspects of our technology that could benefit all worlds. Murmurs of surprise filled the room. This was more than anyone had expected. What would you ask in return? Shintar inquired. Star charts, Director Lee replied. Knowledge of regions we once visited, but have not seen in 15,000 years. Cultural information about your peoples, and most importantly, your stories, how you rose from your home worlds to the stars. Stories, a Krell representative asked with suspicion. Why would you want those? Admiral Kim smiled. Because they may help us avoid repeating our mistakes. We have forgotten much of who we were before the Great War. In learning about you, we hope to remember more about ourselves. The agreement was signed that evening. As the diplomats celebrated with a formal dinner, Professor Tae-yoon entered the station accompanied by an honor guard. He carried a small container made of a strange, shimmering metal. A gift, he announced, from Earth to the conquered. Inside the container was a seed. Not an ordinary seed, but one engineered by ancient human technology to grow into a tree that could purify air, produce nutritious fruit, and live for thousands of years. Our ancestors created these for worlds damaged by war, Professor Yoon explained. We ask that you plant it on a world that needs healing, as a symbol of what cooperation can achieve. 2 weeks later, Professor Yoon stood with Shin-Tar before a newly unveiled monument on Earth. The large stone structure was shaped like a spiral reaching toward the sky. Carved into its base were names, billions of names, representing those who had died in humanity's ancient civil war. It is remarkable, Shin-Tar said, studying the monument. Your people honor those who died so long ago, though most humans alive today only learned of them recently. We remember so we do not repeat, Professor Yoon replied, and we look forward, not just back. He pointed upward. High above them, visible as a bright point moving across the evening sky, was the first new ship built by humans in 15,000 years. Unlike the heritage fleet vessels, it was not designed for war. It was an exploration ship, large and elegant, created with technology both ancient and modern. The New Dawn, Professor Yoon said with pride. She leaves next month for stars. We have not visited since before the war. 30 scientists from Earth and 10 from the conquered will study what has changed in our absence. Shin-Tar's three-fingered hand rested lightly on the monument. Will you build more warships as well? Professor Yoon nodded. Some, yes. The galaxy can be dangerous. But mostly, we will build ships like the New Dawn, ships of learning and discovery. And what of the ancient weapons, the alien asked? The Star Killers and Planet Breakers? They remain sealed, Professor Yoon said firmly. Some technology should never be used again. As darkness fell, lights came on around the monument, illuminating the names of the dead. In orbit above Earth, shipyards that had remained dormant for thousands of years glowed with renewed activity. Workers moved between old and new vessels, learning from the past while building for the future. In his office at Heritage Fleet Headquarters, Admiral Kim reviewed reports from Captain Kang. Her ship was currently escorting a Concorde science vessel through the outer solar system, the first official joint mission. A message appeared on his screen from Director Lee. Activation protocols, complete for training program. First alien representatives arrive tomorrow. Admiral Kim sent a simple reply. History is watching us, let's get it right this time. On his desk sat a small artifact, a broken piece of control panel from a ship that had fought in the ancient war. It had been passed down through generations of his family, most of whom never knew its true significance. Now it served as a reminder of both what humanity had lost and what it might become again. The Admiral turned to the window and looked up at the stars. For thousands of years, humans had gazed at them with wonder, never knowing they had once walked among them. Now, they were going back, wiser, perhaps, than their ancestors had been. The time of hiding was over. The time of rebuilding had begun. The end.